In their most recent blog post, as of the time of this recording, Refusing to Forget's website featured a fascinating perspective from English professor Dr. Christopher Carmona of Our Lady of the Lake. Now let's front load this one with context instead of picking it up at the end. The Plan of San Diego, discovered in 1915 in San Diego, Texas, called for the annihilation of all Anglo men over the age of 16 to create an independent republic from the territory Mexico lost in the war with the United States in 1848. The Genocidal Manifesto called for a war of no quarter. No prisoners would be taken. People would be executed. Now, Carmona's take on this is right there in the title. The Plan de San Diego, a triumph of the Mexican-American spirit. Yep, that's a real thing a Texas professor published. The Declaration, I'm quoting the blog post here, the Declaration written over 100 years ago called for a revolution against the United States to free the Southwest. This declaration was not the work of a fringe group of fanatics bent on anarchy, but rather was a cry against grievances left unanswered. So, as Carmona is going to admit later in this, or maybe not, his writing is kind of murky, we don't know who wrote the Plan of San Diego, so we can't say it wasn't a fringe group of fanatics bent on anarchy. But we do know that one of the biggest plan adherents was, in fact, an avowed anarchist. But this sentence in its entirety is interesting. A genocidal revolution was a cry against grievances unanswered? It kind of sounds like Carmona is saying the targeted Anglo population had it coming. But we should probably give him the benefit of the doubt and read on, right? Quote, for several years, 1910 to 1920, the Texas Rangers and other forces such as American corporations and Anglo ranchers had levied a violent campaign against the South Texas Mexican communities for their lands and resources. Because of this, El Plan de San Diego was created as a call of action for people of the Southwest to take back their lands they believed were lost in the Mexican War of 1846. This document asked for the banding together of Mexicans, African Americans, Native Americans, and Japanese to fight back against the Texas Rangers. It kind of sounds like Carmona is saying that Anglos were responsible for a genocidal pronouncement against them. It also sounds like Carmona lacks some historical knowledge. He's got a PhD in English, if you can believe that, from A&M, and not history. The document asked for the banning, he means banding, together of ethnic groups to fight back against the Texas Rangers, he says. I wonder if Dr. Carmona has read the Plan of San Diego? It doesn't mention the Rangers. It does, however, explicitly mention executing all white males over the age of 16. Next, he quotes Howard Zinn, which is never a good sign. And then this. In retrospect, El Plan de San Diego offers more speculation than answers. Who started it? Where was it actually written? Who was behind it? Carranza? The Germans? Possibly anybody but a group of educated Mexican Americans who were upset by the violence rained down on them for too long. I think he meant rained, R-A-I-N-E-D, down. And the point he's trying to make is not clear. If he's insinuating historians speculate about who wrote it instead of instantly attributing it to the men it was found on, that's because we don't actually know who wrote it. He continues. Quote, the truth of the matter is, those answers are inconsequential. Like, dude, why'd you ask the questions? And do not offer insight to the true significance of the proclamation itself. Whether this document was a good idea or not, it is a triumph of the spirit of Mexican Americans to stand against unsurmountable odds and speak for the oppressed in this country. So here, Carmona can't say whether a genocidal plan to target Anglo-Texans was a good idea or not. But to him, it represents the spirit of Mexican Americans to speak up. So is there a difference between speaking up and pledging oneself to genocide? I'm pretty sure there's some daylight between those two things. Quote, this is the lasting legacy of the Plan of San Diego, whether you agree with their actions or not. It is simply that. A document that speaks of the liberation of oppressed peoples in this country, and for that it should go down in history with the efforts of John Brown and other rebels who fought to free a people. So again, no denouncement of that whole genocide part of the plan, whether you agree with their actions or not. And the reference to, murderous John Brown, we could debate whether the plan of San Diego sought to free anyone. The freedom it offered was contingent on genocide and then a military government being installed. Can you name me one free people that's ruled by a military government? That was the deal on offer for all the ethnic groups listed, except for Black Texans. They'd be assisted in fighting for their own segregated republic adjacent to the Revolutionary Republic. And we could debate that, Chris, but first we'd have to get past that whole not condemning genocide thing. And I don't think we can.